4 years ago I reviewed the Sonore opticalRendu and was quite impressed. There now is a further developed version that initially was named version 2.0 but now goes under the name of Deluxe. Not only the opticalRendu is further developed, the same goes for my reference setups. Just watch some of my videos in the playlist about my reference setups to see how they evolved over the years. And also I developed further, not in the last place due to the brilliant paper Understanding How Perturbations on Digital Signals Can Affect the Sound Quality Without Changing Bits, and how these issues were addressed by the optometer regen, written by John Swenson. Swenson also is the engineer that designed the Sonore Rendu series of products. I also learned a lot from reviewing digital equipment and discussions with their designers. They normally are relatively secretive about their strategies, but if you play it well, they will confirm you are thinking in the right direction. So over time, I learned to understand what can go wrong in digital audio and learned how to easily detect when things go wrong, at least in my reference setup 1. But let's go to the product at hand and first explain what it does. The opticalRendu Deluxe can function as a network bridge or as a streamer. I expect most users will have it function as a network bridge, which essentially is nothing more than a USB output on a distance. But it can also run bubble UPnP server, although I didn't try that. So instead of connecting your DAC to the computer, you're now connected to the network bridge that is connected to the computer over the network. This gives designers the possibility to optimize that USB output for audio and keep it as separated as possible from the electric noise, DC shifts and phase noise that computers cause. These are the most likely explanations why digital devices like this can bring sound improvements. Since the opticalRendu uses fiber optic cable, it offers 100% galvanic separation, since the fiber optic cable can't conduct electricity. The opticalRendu Deluxe has to be connected to your network over fiber optic cable using an FSP media converter. If your network already has a router or switch with SFP port, you connect the opticalRendu directly to it using an SFP media converter on each side. There are many different types of fiber and SFP transceivers, but Sonore recommends ON1 type multi-mode fiber with LC connectors. On the right you see one of the two SFP media converters I was lent for the review. It is to be plugged into the opticalRendu Deluxe and the router. The fiber optic cable uses 2 strands, 1 strand in each direction, so it has to be used as a cross cable. As you can see, the yellow marked strand is on the left in one connector and on the right on the other. If your router doesn't support fiber optics, you need a converter box. This small box holds the SFP media converter and on the other side has an RJ45 port for twisted pair cable. Unfortunately, these cheap boxes are not kind to digital audio signals, since the phase noise can be rather high, while the cheap switch mode power supply that comes with it is rather noisy too. The review setup came with the Sonore opticalModule Deluxe, so I will use that. It does the same, but only better. And I use an iFi iPower switch mode power supply to power it. So the total setup looks like this. The opticalRendu Deluxe is connected to the DAC over USB 2. The DAC in turn is connected over analog RCA or XLR cables to the amp and speakers. The opticalRendu Deluxe is connected to the opticalModule Deluxe over fiber. The latter then is connected to the router over a network cable. Also in the network there needs to be a music server, computer or NAS holding the music, and in most cases also a music server program. I'll get back to that later on. Depending on the mode chosen, music playback is controlled from the computer or using a tablet or smartphone. If you use an AV receiver or amplifier with built-in DAC and USB input, the opticalRendu is connected directly to it. The opticalRendu Deluxe is a small box that Sonore uses for many of their products. It measures 110 by 112 by 29 mm without the rubber feet. With the rubber feet it is 37 mm tall. It weighs 260 grams without the power supply. The front holds no controls, not even a power LED. The rear holds a 6 to 9 volt DC input, the USB-A port to connect to the DAC, the SFP port for the fiber transceiver, the power LED and the micro SD card that holds the operating system. As said, the opticalRendu Deluxe is actually version 2 of the original opticalRendu. So let's compare the circuit board with that of version 1. Overall we see other voltage regulators, and there are many of them. When we zoom in, we see that the microchip Ethernet switch is now replaced by a Broadcom one. Sonore reports that their very positive experience with this chip in their optical module, the Ethernet to optical Ethernet converter, made them use it here. It was also why both the current opticalRendu and opticalModule have the addition Deluxe to their name. Furthermore, the insertion of the clock signal has allegedly been improved, while the way the CPU connects to the main I/O board improved reliability. On the software side, they managed to lower the CPU cycles, which is always good for lowering noise. Furthermore, improvements have been made to make support easier and have an even better compatibility with DACs. The opticalRendu Deluxe runs Sonic Orbiter 2.9 that supports many streaming standards, and depending on the chosen standard, it will behave differently. All these emulations do true gapless playback, PCM up to 768 kHz and DSD up to DSD 512 using DSD over PCM or native DSD, unless I say different, and provided that the DAC used support these sampling types and rates. DLNA needs a DLNA or UPnP AV server program. That can be Bubble UPnP running on the opticalRendu, or for instance Minim server on a music server, computer or NAS. It can be configured to work as an open home renderer or work as a renderer with Orvana, Tidal and Qobuz. Somcast is supported too. Shairpoint allows the use of Apple AirPlay streaming for Apple computers, iPads and iPhones. AirPlay is limited to sampling rates up to 48 kHz PCM and thus no multi-room nor DSD. MPD DLNA renderer runs the Linux music player daemon. It plays music stored on a share on a music server, computer or NAS. Here the opticalRendu Deluxe does the intelligent work and needs to be controlled from an MPD compatible app on a computer, tablet or smartphone. Squeezelite does Squeezebox emulation. The Logitech media server needed for Squeezebox operation can run on the opticalRendu or on a music server, computer or NAS. It indexes the music and plays the music files on the opticalRendu. HQ Player NNA lets the opticalRendu work as a network audio adapter for Signalist HQ Player that has to run on a separate computer. HQ Player does impressive DSP work on audio signals, like upsampling and room correction, but it has a steep learning curve. Roon Ready makes it an endpoint in a Roon-based system. A separate music server or computer running the Roon server program is needed. It is controlled from a tablet or smartphone. Spotify Connect lets you play music from Spotify using your computer or tablet that runs the Spotify app. Only 44.1 kHz lossily compressed PCM files are available on Spotify. So it might be clear that any way of playing music files over the opticalRendu is supported, with the exception of the proprietary standards from Sonore and Bluesound. Setting up the player mode is easy too. Just type sonicorbiter.com in your browser address line and you see the opticalRendu Deluxe under the network players. If you own a Sonic Transporter 2, that is listed on the music service. Just simply tap Manage and you'll see the general information of the opticalRendu Deluxe in your network. In some cases, sonicorbiter.com might not work. For instance, if you have private relay engaged on a Mac. In that case, open your router or Network Explorer software and look for Orendu followed by a multi-digit number. Type the IP address next to it into your browser's address field and the menu opens. Tapping Apps in the menu bar shows the installed apps. As you can see, I have MPD DLNA and Roon Ready installed. DAC Diagnostics shows you the capabilities of the connected DAC. Software Manager lets you do an update, delete installed apps and install apps. In the settings menu, app-specific settings can be done. It looks all simple, and that's what it is. Remember, we are using a slim command line version of Linux through this interface. Most people simply wouldn't be able to do this on a command line. Of course you can, I mean normal people. Doing the hardware setup is straightforward, as we have seen in the Where to Use chapter. If you own a switch with an SFP cage, you can use that for the SFP module that converts the Ethernet into optical Ethernet. Sonore advises Finisar SFP modules. There are many variations in frequency and optical cables. There have to be identical SFP modules at each end of the optical cable, and they have to have the same optical connection. If your switch doesn't have an SFP cage, you can use a simple media converter like this to plug the SFP converter in. Alternatively, Sonore offers the opticalModule Deluxe that uses the same Broadcom chip the opticalRendu uses and has a high quality femto oscillator. The opticalModule Deluxe has the same shape and color as the opticalRendu Deluxe. It has a 5 to 9 volt DC input, a LAN connector and the SFP cage. As you can see here, optical cables, one for each direction, have to be crossed. The opticalRendu Deluxe was connected to the opticalModule Deluxe using Finisar SFP modules and a 1 meter optical cable. The optical module in turn was connected to the Zigsel GS1900-10HP switch, from where patch cables run to the Ziggel modem router and the Sonic Transporter i7 that functions as a Roon and DLNA server. The Holo Audio Cyan 2 DAC was connected to the opticalRendu Deluxe over a Network Acoustics Eno USB cable. The analog outputs were connected to the Air Acoustic AX520 amplifier over Grim Audio SQM XLR cables. The PMC FAC12 signature loudspeaker on Stack Audio OVA 70 isolators were connected over AudioQuest Robin Hood Zero loudspeaker cable to the amp. The Apple iPad Pro 2 was used to control Roon and the Minim server. I have also tried the SFP cage in the Zigsel switch and in a simple media converter box instead of the optical module. It is impossible to compare the Deluxe version with the original version. There's 4 years in between the tests, and even if I still had the same gear, it is impossible to do such a comparison. And my current reference setup used here has so much more detail and refinement, so I will judge the deluxe versions of the opticalRendu and opticalModule on their own merits. And they are impressive. The refinement of the sound quality is clearly better what I have heard in this price category up till now. The lows go deep with oodles of texture. The mid-ranges, especially voices, sound so natural, and the highs are silky in a filigree way. The stereo image is rather wide and deep, with the instruments are well in focus and have lots of air around them. Sibilance is close to perfect, another clear proof that jitter is thought of very well. That's all very fine, but there's more. There's an easiness and a subtle presentation of the music. It made me think of that one guy I saw running last Sunday. He seemed to hover, almost not touching the ground. Quite a difference for many, including myself, where every step is serious labour. And that on a €1400 DAC. Okay, it's my favourite DAC in that price range, and it's not oversampling, which makes things easier, but still. As I said, I also use the SFP port on my Sissel switch. But that made me think of the second group of runners, or like musicians that had played constantly for 24 hours. All life was squeezed out of it. It is shocking to hear such a big difference between two pieces of gear. Remember, the Squeezelite was used galvanically with the opticalModule in use. I also used a separate media converter box with an S-booster power supply, and that sounded slightly better, but not with the magic of the opticalModule Deluxe combined with the opticalRendu Deluxe. I grade the combo lower quad setup 1A, just below the Auralic Aries G2. During the review, I used an S-booster BOTW PnP Eco 5 to 6 volts to power the opticalRendu Deluxe and an iFi iPower 5 volts to power the opticalModule Deluxe. In this configuration, it adds up to a tad over €2,500. That might be a lot of money for those two small boxes plus a bulky S-booster, but I challenge you to find an equally well-sounding network bridge. Or should I say an equally not sounding network bridge, for it seems that the Lux Duo adds very little to the audio signal. And on that bombshell we come to the end of this video. There will be a new video next week Friday, so subscribe to this channel or follow me on Patreon, Facebook, LinkedIn or Instagram to stay informed on when new videos are out. Help me reach even more people by giving this video a thumb up or link to this video on the social media. It is much appreciated. Many thanks to those viewers that support this channel financially. It keeps me independent and lets me improve the channel further. If that makes you feel like supporting my work too, the links are in the comments below this video on YouTube. I'm Hans Beekhuizen, thank you for watching and see you next Friday. And whatever you do, enjoy the music.